All right, peace, everybody. This your boy, Minister Jew. As promised, I said I was going to make a video on Juice World. And so I'm going to jump right into this thing. I don't really want to waste anybody's time here. I want to get right into the specifics of the science behind what people consider to be self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're new to Minister Jew, I like to think of myself as the millennial minister. I'm not your typical minister. I speak on subject matters that are related to high science in a way where it helps you understand the dynamic of consciousness and how we truly are able to create the realities around us as the true and living gods in the flesh. And so this video is definitely going to be within that vein, using both neuroscience and scripture to demonstrate just that. So first off, I just want to say rest in peace to Juice World, right? Fellow Chicagoan. I'm from Chicago myself, hometown. Chi-Town, what's going on, man? I know people out here grieving the death of Juice World, dead at 21 years old. If you're looking at my screen, you can see this video clearly. What you're seeing here on the screen is obviously TMZ reported earlier today that Juice World died at O'Hare Airport, if I'm not mistaken, from, they say, from suffering a seizure, as you can see here on the screen, right? And before I get into this, I want to always say the quantum principles of mind, right? For those of you who may not understand what quantum wave collapse is, you should Google it. You should watch videos on the double slit experiment, et cetera, to get more in depth and detail in this conversation. Or go to YouTube, type in Minister Jew, and watch some of my older videos 3-4 years ago talking about quantum consciousness, talking about quantum healing, talking about the phenomenon of quantum physics in a way that the regular general person can understand it, and the implications behind it, right? And also the ramifications if applied properly, how this can change your personal life and how it can change situations in a much more larger scope or larger context. But in quantum physics, we have a wave and a particle, just to that's the baseline of the phenomenon. Energy or matter can be viewed as wave, meaning I like to call that the spiritual aspect, tapping into the unknown, and the particle aspect, which is physical reality that we see every day. So in the case of Juice World, people will say, oh, well, he died of a seizure. Yes. Anytime something gets put into the wave or into the quantum field, the result always has to come out in a way where it makes natural sense. That's just the way that it goes. So we hear people all the time talking about manifest. Yes, they're putting things into the quantum field via what people call prayer, what people call visualization, what people call mantras, all these different formats of spirituality that is now being commonly accepted within the hip-hop community. And I'm so glad that we've finally reached this point to where we can have these conversations without feeling ridiculed or weird or all these different terms that people used to consider this type of conversation to be. But now with the advent of quantum physics and the interpretation of what's going on at a scale that is below the threshold of visibility, now we can actually see how some of these ancient principles of old are real. They're very, 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 very real if you have the proper application for it. So many will say, well, Juice World died because of a seizure. No, I'm going to tell you why Juice World died. Juice World died from self-fulfilling prophecy, and we're going to look at some other examples here in this particular video. So let's just get right into it. So here is a screenshot from a record called Legends, or album called Legends by Juice World. And for the the album cover, you can see here, it's a text message thread. Shout out to my big homie Tommy, who sent this over to me today, because me and him be having these conversations all the time. I be trying to school him on the phenomenon, and now when he comes across it, he's blown away by it. And so that's usually what happens. People start to send me these things because they know I can explain it in detail. So he sent it over to me. So again, shout out to the big homie Tommy Gunn, that's my man. So anyway, what you're looking at here is the album cover, right, for one of Juice WRLD's projects. And let's read it. It says, it's a text message thread. You're the truth. Just be careful what you manifest. That's probably the most important text in this entire thread. Just be careful what you manifest. That's my honest response. He says, thank you. Much love to you, right? If you need anything, you ask me. I read good energy from you. Make sure that that's the only energy you put yourself around. Much appreciated. But how can I surround myself with good energy when there's bad energy everywhere, it seems like, right? So somebody's trying to explain to him the phenomenon of self-manifestation predicated upon what you feed yourself internally, via your thoughts, via your emotions, your elevated emotions, right? And also how your environment also has an influence on the way things materialize in your world. You can see this when you start to study gene expression and the things that actually affect your genes. Well, the closest thing that affects your genes is thought and emotions. That's the closest thing that you have to your being that can affect your genes. There's plenty of scientific studies on this phenomenon. I get into this in my private memberships where I teach this thing extensively to my members. I really don't want to get into the science top-heavy on that subject matter in this video for people who may just be brand new to this conversation, okay? But there's a plethora of information on gene expression and how thoughts and feelings actually affect your genes. But your genes can also be affected by things in your immediate environment, meaning what's the things external to you have an effect on your psychology, right? Have effect on your biology, all of these different things. So somebody's trying to reel him in and let him know, look, man, you need to keep yourself around good energy, right? And he's like, man, but I don't know. How do I do it? It just seems like there's so much bad around me all the time. Now, in that particular song, right, let's just read this. This is from TMZ. One of the songs on Juice's Too Soon EP was called Legends, as we just showed. And it has a pretty prophetic lyric. As we said, the track was about Lil Peep and Triple X's death in the song he raps. What's the 27 Club? We ain't making it past 21. So everybody is on all of the social media platforms, and now they're doing what they always do when we see things of this nature. It's prayers up for the family, right, which is absolutely welcome. We understand that the compassion that people feel in their hearts, the sorrow that they're having at the moment. So we like to send out that particular vibe to the people who may be close to the situation. But then when we see situations like this, where these rappers, right, are quote unquote prophesying their own death, right? We got Malik here, who I saw on a Twitter feed as I'm scrolling, looking at this particular situation unfold. This brother says he said it himself. All legends fall in the making. Sorry truth, dying youth, demon youth. Excuse me. Sorry truth, dying young, demon youth. Right? Same lyric. What's the 27 Club? We ain't making it past 21. Right? Now, what we have to get a clear understanding on is this. We have to move past the idea of a coincidence, ladies and gentlemen. Who's going to be curious enough to ask the questions why are these type of things happening this type of way, right? On a consistent basis, we see these phenomena unfolding where people are talking a certain way, right? They're thinking and feeling a certain way, and then the phenomenon appears. Now, this is scaled. It has scales to it. The more people that you have to observe a phenomenon, and Juice Wrld is an extremely popular person. This is why I say you got to go back and watch the videos on quantum entanglement, quantum wave collapse, double slit experiment. The more people you have to observe a phenomenon, the much faster the wave will collapse into a physical circumstance, situation, etc. I know this from experience. I'm not guessing. So when somebody of this stature says certain things in a storytelling, artistic type of way, and millions of people are playing the records and repeating the song and watching the videos, right? You get a self-fulfilling prophecy. It materializes. Remember, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made what? The Word was made flesh. When you truly understand how to interpret Scripture from a first-person position and not thinking of God as something outside of yourself, you yourself are the true and living God. And you're constantly weaving your reality together based upon your word, which is an amalgamation of thoughts, feelings, emotions, what you're reading, what you're seeing, all of these different things is contributing to your word. Now, I responded or commented under this particular thread, right? I said, it's a actual science to this that the entire world is waiting to understand. The Simpsons, the Boondocks, Tupac, Biggie, Triple X, now Juice. I'm going to drop a video tonight and explain the quantum principles behind this phenomenon of self-fulfilling prophecy. See, we're going to have to, instead of saying, oh man, every time something happens in the world, oh, the Simpsons predicted it, and that's as far as it goes. I mean, I did a presentation where CNN came on and was like, man, Simpsons are our modern day psychics. They don't understand that the Simpsons are creating the reality based upon this quantum principle. Or the other thing you run into from people who truly don't understand how consciousness works, meaning the conscious mind and the subconscious mind uniting together to create reality, people run to conspiracy. They start to say the Illuminati killed them and all of this type of thing. They just don't understand, and so their minds are searching for answers, right? It seems to come off mystical and strange, and because there's nobody explaining to them the mechanics of it from both a scientific and a spiritual viewpoint, then they have to move to the next line of thought, which is, oh man, there's some secret group out here that killed Juice Wrld. There's a secret group out here that killed Triple X. No. I'm going to graduate people from that thought form because I have bukus of these phenomenons, right, in people's personal lives from my memberships that I teach people how to use this in their personal life. Listen, I went from 5 digits to 6, making 6 digits a year using these same techniques and principles in my life. Not only that, in 4 short years of understanding how to implement this phenomenon, I've generated over $6 million worth of testimonials from the collective group of people who have come into the fold to understand how to utilize this knowledge. No cap, as the young boys say. And it's people who are from the bottom, regular Joes and Janes, who have heard this message and have decided that they're going to take this serious and apply it to their personal lives. Now, I omitted all the testimonials because this is not what this video was for. This is a teaching moment, right? So let's read this, because when you truly understand, because we talk in prophecy, and when you think prophecy, you think scriptures or ancient text or holy text. Now, if this is your first time again hearing Minister Jew, whenever you hear me interpret the Bible, it's always from a first-person perspective. These words are actually, and these phrases are actually parable and allegory to get you how to understand deeper psychological principles of your own consciousness and how you can move in and out of different states of being. Right? So this is Isaiah 48:3. I declared the former things long ago, and they went forth from my where? From my mouth. And I proclaimed them. Suddenly I acted, and they came to pass. So what did Juice Wrld do? Did he not declare these things on the Legends album? Did he not say them from his mouth? Did he not proclaim them to be facts? And then all of a sudden, right, we don't make it past 21, right? All of these lyrics about how the youth culture is dying, right? And then the next thing you know, he just makes 21 a week ago, and he's dead the same week of his birthday. Huh? Did it not come to pass? See, these are ancient principles encoded in these allegories and parables in these books. And when you understand them, you start to take heed to what they mean and what you should and should not be doing according to how you are using your own consciousness. Let's continue to read. This is Matthew 12:36, right? But I say unto you that every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give account thereof in the judgment day. Not talking about some day where somebody's going to fall out of the sky, right? And this is, listen, I don't want to offend none of my traditional Christian people here. This is not my aim, right? I'm not here to make anybody feel uneasy about their traditional way of viewing Scripture. I want to make that clear. But what I do want to say is I'm challenging people to think at a deeper level using the same book that they've been reading for, years and years and years and years and years and years and years. Because I promise you, if you do, you're going to have better results in your life. That's all I'm saying. So the judgment day, right, is the day that you have to reckon with what you spoke out of your mouth. I remember watching the Breakfast Club interview when they had Snoop Dogg on, and he was like, man, I started to feel like that murder rap that I caught was based off of me writing Murder Was the Case that they gave me, and I had to be more aware about writing those type of songs. This is all facts, ladies and gentlemen. Go back and watch that episode with Snoop Dogg where he talks about that. See, intuitively, We all understand this. The problem is nobody's giving you the mechanics of why and how it works to utilize it in a conscious way where you're alert about using it, where you're using it with intention, right? Now, see, it's all good when the manifestations are great, when we manifested some money, we've manifested a better situation for ourselves, we've manifested the girl of our dreams, the guy of our dreams. It's all good then, right? But what people fail to realize is this. Manifestation is a two-way street. It's not always just the nice, pretty stuff. It's not always just the prosperous stuff that you manifest. But see, there's been a facade around manifestation because it's always presented in a way where it's positive. And that's great because it should be presented in that light for people who are aware of it because you're striving to push yourself in that direction. But somebody's going to have to tell y'all the ugly truth about the other side. And this is what happens when we think God is this external force outside of ourselves. But Paul clearly says in the scripture, do you not realize that Jesus Christ is in you? The personification called Christ even said it. The kingdom of heaven is within you, not around you, not outside of you, not up in the cloud somewhere, but literally in you. So if it's in you, you need to find out where it's at and how to operate it. So let's read Deuteronomy 32 and 39. See now that I, even I, am he, and there is no God with me. Now, here's the important part. I kill, and I make alive. I wound, and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hands. Do you read this clearly? See, I do both. I create the good, I create the bad. I do the healing, and I also do the wounding. And there is nobody that's going to be able to deliver you out of your own creations. You must lie in the bed that you make and weave with your word, meaning your thoughts, your inner thoughts specifically, and most importantly, your imagination, right? And the words that you consistently spit and spew out of your mouth. You're weaving a reality predicated upon how vividly you are utilizing your own human technology. Okay? So now, what happens when we write these things down? Because, see, these people are lyricists. They write these things down. And it's a whole science to writing things down, right? But I just want to go over this briefly. The neuroscience explains why you need to write down your goals if you actually want to achieve them. So they're looking at it in the sense of achieving goals in the positive light, in a positive sense, right? But see, there's a magic to writing, ladies and gentlemen. There's a magic to scribing. You have to ask yourself a question. When you go look at these studies, they tell you that when you write your goals down on paper, generally people manifest them at a much higher rate versus people who just keep it in their head. Why? Because, see, as long as you keep your thoughts in your head, right, meaning the wave state, because you literally got brain waves, right, theta waves, beta waves, alpha waves, you got all of these different states of consciousness that we call them waves predicated upon what you're thinking at any particular given time. The brain is operating off waves, right? Quantum physics is running off waves and particles. So, and you can't get away from you are quantum physics. You're made of atoms, molecules. That means you're a quantum projection. So it's not something outside of you. You're the walking quantum field, right? So what happens is this. Once you take it out of the wave, i.e. your brain, right? Once you take it out of the wave, i.e. your thoughts, and you write it down on paper, you just collapse the wave into a particle. You made something definite. You just made a measurement. okay? You just made a measurement. And they tell you in quantum physics, observation, right, can either be through physical observation, meaning looking with your eyes, or any type of measuring device. So anytime you write something down predicated upon something that was in your mind about a goal, you just made a measurement. You're looking at it. You're sizing it up. And they tell you that people who write it down manifest their goals at a higher rate of close to, I think, like 70%. So what is it just about me writing it down that makes it so much more certain in my life? So these artists are penning these things to paper. They're putting it behind melody, and then they got millions of followers and viewers who are amplifying the effects of what they're writing, thinking, and feeling. Right? So here's some examples. I mentioned The Simpsons, right? Because I'm a student of my craft. I study this thing extensively. And so I got literally hundreds of these type of examples. I'm only going to include a few here, right? But let's look at this. This World Star, this was maybe a year or two ago. No one could have predicted that the U.S. would win curling gold, right? Actually, The Simpsons did in a February 14, 2010 episode. They beat Sweden, who the U.S. happened to beat to win gold today, right? Then the news published it. The Simpsons predicted 8 years ago U.S. would beat Sweden to win Olympic curling gold. Now, see, this is where I'm trying to explain to people we got to throw the Illuminati stuff out of the window. We got to graduate from that. I guess it's part of the growing processing phase, but I want to graduate people from that. Let's move up into the college ranks, into the university ranks of understanding wisdom and knowledge, all right? What the hell does the Illuminati care about the U.S. winning a gold medal against Sweden? Huh? Why? Why? Just doesn't make any sense, right? See, what's happening here is motion pictures and viewership, again, is creating the phenomenon of life. So it's a 2010 episode, right? It happens 8 years later, right? The exact same thing manifests. Now, see, this is where you have to know the intricacies of this phenomenon. Depending upon how many moving parts it takes, it's going to take a longer time for the image to develop in the physical world, which is really the projection, okay? Because it's taking more moving parts. Do you understand everything that had to come together in order for that quantum manifestation or that quantum image to materialize? All of these people had to go through training. All of these people had to get the opportunity. The stage had to be set that it was going to be in Sweden. There was a lot of moving parts, and I'm going to show you another one that took even more moving parts. It's going to absolutely blow your mind. But when it doesn't take as many people to participate, the results end up much quicker. But you read this in the book of Habakkuk when it says, if it be long, wait. For it is sure, and it will not be late. I think that's Habakkuk 2:2. That's talking about the quantum imaging power, which is a brand that I created around this phenomenon, right, called quantum imaging, to show people how this works, right? So if it be long, wait, because it's coming, and it is sure, and it will not be late. But some things don't take as long, because you don't have as many moving parts in order to make it a reality. This obviously had much more moving parts. Let's get into this one. There's a narrative written called The Nantucket by Edgar Allan Poe. Poe wrote this book in 1938. He wrote it as if the story was true. In the story, a ship lost at sea with 4 crew members out of food decided to eat a young cabin boy whose name is Richard Parker. That was the young boy's name in the book. That's the plot. The ship wrecks. They get stranded, and the 4 crew members decide to eat the cabin boy whose name is Richard Parker. 46 years later, a young man involved in a disaster. Now, this is in real life. This is the 46 years later. is in real life. But I just want to show you it took 46 years for this quantum image to mature, right? Because at that time, the young boy wasn't even alive, and we're going to see exactly what I mean by this. 46 years later, a young man involved in a disaster at sea gets eaten by his crew members, and his name is Richard Parker. He was 17 years old at the time. So in a story that was a fiction that was written like a true story in 1938, okay, they decided to eat a cabin boy, and in the book, the boy's name was Richard Parker. 46 years later, the exact same thing happened. A boat gets involved in a disaster at sea, and the crew members eat the cabin boy in real life, and his name was Richard Parker. Exact same name. Now, you may say, Jew, show me that proof. I'm going to show it because I don't play that. Listen, I call it cognitive spirituality. I'm going to come with receipts so that you can understand this early. You all probably remember it by watching the movie called The Life of Pi, where the tiger was on the boat, and the tiger helped save the boy, Richard Parker, and back and forth, right? That movie was a spinoff of this real phenomenon that actually happened at sea. It was a character in the book named Tiger, okay? Now, here's the full case name. It was Her Majesty the Queen versus Tom Dudley and Edward Stevens, decided in 1884, right? And 1884. And here you can see the judge's name, right? Dudley and Stevens were shipwrecked along with two other men when one of them, the cabin boy, Richard Parker, fell into a coma. Dudley and Stevens decided to kill him for food. After a highly publicized trial, they were convicted of murder and sentenced to death. Right? Now, I want to get into briefly some of the neuroscience surrounding this phenomenon. Briefly. I'm not going to go too deep into it. The hippocampus in the right hemisphere of the brain supports all inner imagery, imagination, and our ability to retrieve past events and also create imagery for future scenarios. Okay? This is by J.A. Wheeler, When the Future Becomes the Past, Behavioral Brain Research, October 2010. Okay? Now, I mentioned this earlier about the hippocampus. This structure is what's contributing in large part to creating the realities around us via the imagery, the subjective imagery that we can generate ourselves, and also the remembered imagery that we bring in through our eyes and we store away as memory and also use to create phenomenon from previously experienced things. Okay? But as you can see here, it has the ability to do what? Create imagery for future scenarios. So if you remember, like the video with Triple X, right? How he had already shown himself dead in a casket, right? Or all these other phenomena like I showed you with The Simpsons, where these things were already demonstrated visually through some type of image, right? And years later, it materialized. It came into being. There's a power in imagination. In fact, when you truly understand what it is, you realize that there's nothing that was ever created that didn't come out of the imagination of man. The very first TV had to come out of the imagination because there wasn't one before it. The very first car had to come out of somebody's imagination because there wasn't one for it. In fact, some of the greatest minds in physics, Albert Einstein, Paul Dirac, Ludwig Boltzmann, all are on the record for using imagination to solve some of the most profound mysteries in physics at the time. These are the gentlemen responsible for the theory of relativity that used imagination. Einstein would visualize what it was like to ride alongside of a beam of light, right? That's on the record. Paul Dirac was big on visualizing the quantum world through imagery, and then the math would come online. But it's multiple stories about how his imagination was super, super crazy, right? And his work is the work responsible for science discovering antimatter. Okay? So when we understand, and Ludwig is responsible for us understanding that atoms exist. But he had a vivid imagination as well. I remember reading a story where they said the other scientists at the time thought he was crazy and said he was just a person who's had run off in fantasy. The whole time this man had visualized the quantum world and saw an atom in his mind's eye and had the wherewithal and the courage, right, and the enthusiasm to keep moving, and then later come to find out he was absolutely right. So antimatter, atoms, and the theory of relativity all owe their due to what? The human imagination. These are facts, ladies and gentlemen. Right? So, listen, y'all. I'm writing a book. It's my third one, right? First one I co-authored with my partner, Noble Ampu. The second one I wrote on my own called Imagination at Work. It's on Amazon. You can go over there, type in Imagination at Work. You can pick that up. This is my third piece that I'm working on right here, currently at the moment, called Quantum Scriptures, the Prophetic Power of Hip-Hop Quotes and Scripture, Hip-Hop Edition, Minister Jew. I'm about to go in. I'm going to go into the 3 layers of hip-hop, right, scripture, and I'm going to be adding the neuroscience in here that talks about the phenomenon of creating from the mind, all in the same piece of literature. Hip-hop needs this. The culture needs this. People are going to thoroughly understand this phenomenon in this book, and I'm going to use hip-hop as the example to show that these artists have been doing it their entire career through different lyrics. So Juice Wrld, R.I.P. Juice Wrld, I'm adding him into the chapter that talks about the other aspect of manifestation, which is the darker side based upon what you're thinking and feeling. And I'm going to have some feel-good joints in there. I got some quotes from Drake, some quotes from Jigga, some quotes from Kanye, some quotes from J-Elect. So I got quotes from all these different artists that's going to show the manifesting and prophetic power of their word. But I'm going to actually get it into the science and the nuts and bolts so that it's just not a pseudo type of thing. I got over 200 case studies from MDs, PhDs, people who have spent their time looking at this phenomenon of mind and speech. All right? So, listen, y'all, follow me on Instagram, The Imagination Guru. Go to Instagram. You'll see me there. You'll see how people have been utilizing this information on my page. Just regular Joe Blow people, average people, right, who heard me on YouTube many years ago and came over and signed up for, you know, some of the stuff that I got to offer. You'll see videos over there, screenshot testimonials from people, some quotes over there from me, some videos over there from me, a bunch of stuff that I'm into that can help you get to a better place in your life from understanding these principles, y'all. So The Imagination Guru over on Instagram. Go to my YouTube channel, The Imagination Guru. I got videos over there where I just re-uploaded some of my older content on YouTube to my page. I really just started being active on my own YouTube page this year. For the most part, people were interviewing me on their platforms 3-4 years ago. And so I just took those older videos and uploaded them to my page now, along with some new content also that I just uploaded in the last month or two. in relationship to some of the things that have been happening where I can tie it into this quantum phenomenon. So get there, man. Go to the website, theimaginationguru.com. I got a 3-day anger and resentment purge going on December 26th. We're going to get into releasing anger and resentment, because this is what's holding people back from manifesting the better version of themselves in their lives, because they're holding on to a lot of that angst and that negative emotion in their hearts. So we're going to get into understanding how to release that and making space, because just like anything else, you need space for other things to come in. And you learn this just from, just simple applications in life. You run out of space, you got to get, a new memory stick or something, because you need more memory. But memory is what? It's a product of the hippocampus. You see how it's always going to go back to the hippocampus, being the structure in the limbic brain that's projecting the reality from inside out, from the subjective world to the objective world. All right? So we're going to be doing that for 3 days. December 26th, get to the site, theimaginationguru.com. Click on the shop tab, scroll down the webinars. You'll be able to participate with us from there. If it's any big fish, any big wigs watching this video about Juice Wrld, hit me up, man. 877-345-3797. All the information will be in the description box on this video below on YouTube. Hit me up, man. I'm telling you, this information can change the culture. We don't have to beg anybody for anything when we understand the principles and the mechanics of consciousness. We create the realities around us, but we have to have the right images set in motion to trigger the phenomenon in the quantum field. So if any big wigs watching this in hip-hop, get at me, man. I'm telling you, we can change the entire landscape of Black culture in America, from understanding how to utilize these principles on a cosmic level, right, on a spiritual level, and on a very, very practical level. All right? So with that, man, I just want to say thank you guys for coming over to watch this video, man. Subscribe, like to my YouTube channel. And with that, I'm going to say peace.